Hello and welcome to today's webinar. On behalf of International Airport Review and IATA, I'd like to thank you all for attending. I'm your moderator, Tara Nolan, editor of International Airport Review. This webinar is the fourth and final webinar in IATA's 2019 webinar series, which together have investigated the future of baggage tagging and messaging within airports. With case studies from a variety of aviation stakeholders, this webinar series has significantly helped spread the awareness of new baggage tracking that is available in the industry. I, for one, am greatly looking forward to this concluding webinar. Today's speakers are Maureen Salem-Brown, who is Project Manager of RFID at IATA, Gabriel Marquis, Implementation Manager of Baggage XML from IATA, Rodolphe Gouillard, who is Bag and Biometrics Manager at Air France, and Nicolas Pierre, who is responsible for business performance at Group ADP. Following their presentations, we will move on to a live question and answer session where you can pose questions to today's speakers. Please remember that you can submit questions at any point during the webinar using the questions panel situated in the menu on the right. Without hesitation, I will now pass over to today's keynote speakers.
Thanks, Tara, and hello, everybody. So today's webinar will cover 3 presentations in relation with RFID and modern messaging in baggage operations. So I will start by giving an overview from an IATA perspective of the latest developments for RFID. Then we will hear how Air France and Aéroports de Paris are successfully collaborating to incorporate RFID in their baggage operations. And finally, my colleague Gabrielle will walk us through what's happening in terms of modern messaging. So as far as RFID is concerned, sorry, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Okay, here we are. So as far as RFID is concerned, let's start by reviewing what happened in 2019. So 2019 has been a busy year for RFID, and I would like to start by highlighting a very important milestone. As you may recall, in June, the IATA Annual General Meeting, which is our highest decision-making body, gathered in South Korea and voted in favor of incorporating RFID inlays in the traditional baggage labels. This AGM resolution calls for airlines to rapidly introduce RFID in their baggage tags, in addition to barcode, and for airports to incorporate the use of RFID technology in their infrastructure. And in order to help achieve this objective, IATA has been developing guidance materials, most of which can be easily found on the IATA website, and we'll take a look at these resources later in the presentation. So as to promote awareness and education on RFID, we also conducted dedicated workshops in all regions, attended by airlines, airports, ground handlers, local authorities, and IATA strategic partners. And it's been fantastic to see so much interest in what RFID can bring to baggage handling, how it can be implemented, and also have stakeholders share their first-hand experience with RFID in every of these forums. With the same objective to support adoption, we've been organizing 4 webinars like the one you're participating in today. And as Tara mentioned, this is the last one of the series. All the recordings are available on our IATA RFID website, and we will take a look at this in a couple of slides. Finally, an important part of 2019 has been dedicated to engaging airlines and airports around the world to support their implementation plans or document what they've been doing with RFID. Another important milestone in 2019 was the development of our joint collaboration in baggage with Airports Council International, ACI. Our 2 organizations have been working in close cooperation for many years now to develop and promote the interests of our respective members. For baggage operations specifically, we agreed on joint aims, such as the need to improve baggage operations, reduce mishandling, promote more efficiency, and enhance customer service. To promote these common objectives, we will collaborate in areas such as baggage tracking, in line with Resolution 753 implementation, but also baggage messaging, And finally, our organization will encourage RFID where it makes sense for an airport and its airlines based on their local needs, processes, and infrastructure. So I was mentioning earlier the resources IATA developed to encourage adoption, and this is what we would like to focus on now. So the first port of call should be the IATA standards for RFID. Recommended Practice 1740C defines the use of RFID for interline baggage operations. The RP is a very important document. It is not mandatory to our member airlines, but it provides recommendations in terms of best practices. And then the annual general meeting resolution on RFID is what really set the priority for the air transport industry. And now let's look at the supporting materials in more details. So some of you are already familiar with our webpage on the IATA website. And as you can see, the address is very easy to remember, www.iata.org/RFID, where you can download all the key documents, such as a one-pager overview of the IATA RFID initiative, the IATA end-to-end baggage business case, which includes a compelling section on RFID and the benefits it is expected to bring airlines and airports to implement. That's also where you can download the RFID implementation guide for free. And we have a newer enhanced version that just came out this week. So we strongly encourage you to get the latest copy. And we also have an RFID encoding tutorial that we can share when you're ready to look into developing encoding capabilities for your RFID tags. If you're planning to implement, we recommend that you get familiar with all these documents. But the baseline remains the IATA standard, Recommended Practice 1740C. It's very important that all stakeholders follow the standard so that your tags can be read anywhere. The standard is a living document. It's updated as need be, following the IATA governance, to make sure we stay up to date on the latest needs and developments. And for example, we recently added a comprehensive set of tests to ensure a global standard of performance that is sufficient for baggage tracking. The standard enables two important aspects for your operation. And the first one is ease of deployment. RFID can be seamlessly integrated with the current barcode technology or any other technologies that you're considering working with. It can be deployed at your own pace because you will be able to add more areas and capabilities over time. Operational flexibility is another key highlight because with RFID, you have different types of tags, either single-use or reusable, more permanent tag that you can choose from for your passengers. You have different types of readers. They can be either fixed or mobile. You can decide to write data on the chip or not do it right away. And finally, the applications of RFID are diverse because it's a technology that enables you to track bags, but also identify many bags at once or locate one specific bag at a time to return it faster to the passenger. And Air France and ADP will explain later how they've chosen to use RFID. So this is for the 2019 highlights. Now let's have a look at where we are in terms of deployment. So first of all, what's important to keep in mind is that when passengers were asked earlier this year what they want during the IATA Global Passenger Survey, they told us that they do want to know where their bags are throughout the journey. Passengers want more visibility, more reassurance that their bags are going to be delivered on time. Over half of passengers, 53%, said that they would be more likely to check their bag if they were able to track it throughout the journey. And 46% said that they want to be able to track their bag and have it delivered directly to an off-airport location if that service was available. So what we see is a high demand for baggage tracking because passengers are looking towards technology to improve their travel experience. And the industry has heard them and is working on improving passenger satisfaction, including through the use of RFID. And you can see here on this map a non-exhaustive list of airlines, the blue circles, and airports, the green rectangles, that have either implemented or are planning to implement in the near future or are currently conducting trials with RFID in their operations. As you can see, the list is getting quite significant, And you will notice strong experience that has been built over the years in North America and Europe, and fast developments currently taking place in the northern parts of Asia. And if you're testing RFID and you're not on this list, please approach us and we'll make sure you're part of this map. Also because we're very interested in capturing what you're experiencing and learning with RFID in order to develop case studies for the industry. So let's zoom in on the case studies that have been developed so far. These are examples of one airline, Delta, and several airports who have implemented RFID and are willing to share their experience with the rest of the industry. What these early deployments in various parts of the world all demonstrate is positive results everywhere RFID is implemented. Their experience shows that RFID tags provide better read rates, help the airlines improve end-to-end baggage tracking with a reduction in the number of mishandled bags, improve the efficiency of baggage operations, and help enhance passenger experience. And as you can see on the map, we are currently working with London Heathrow Airport to develop a case study dedicated to the trials they've been conducting with RFID in their baggage handling system. And now, a couple more highlights on what is currently happening in the industry. Excuse me. The implementation of RFID has seen impressive progress in China, where the technology is being thoroughly embraced. You can see here on the screen a quote from the Director General of the Civil Aviation Administration of China, who says, "A massive campaign in baggage handling is required to initiate. We need to promote the use of RFID in baggage tracking during the whole journey so as to reduce mishandling and save time." And we're indeed seeing strong alignment in this part of the world between the regulator, airports, and their hub airlines. And a key topic of this webinar is to put the emphasis on how important the collaboration is between the two key stakeholders driving baggage handling, airlines and airports. And this is why we wanted to feature the positive example of Air France and their hub airport, Charles de Gaulle, who are implementing RFID hand in hand. And you will hear directly from them right after my presentation. Now, a couple of closing remarks on what to do next. So as a conclusion, we'd really like you, after attending this webinar, to think of the next steps you can take, including reviewing where RFID could help improve your operations and address some of your challenges. So if you're an airline, we strongly recommend that you start procuring tags. And if you're an airport, well, start testing printing and reading RFID tag. That would be a great place to start. And as you do so, we recommend that you do involve all your key stakeholders, because collaboration among all parties is again critical for the successful implementation of a new technology and a complete end-to-end process flow. As mentioned throughout this presentation, if you're interested to join the RFID journey, there are several steps that you can take, starting by visiting our IATA RFID webpage, downloading the latest implementation guide, getting familiar with what others are doing. And if you've missed the first editions of this webinar series, well, do not hesitate to listen to the previous recordings that are all available on our website. Thank you. And without further delay, I now hand over to Air France and Aéroports de Paris.
Hello. Okay, to start with a few figures to illustrate our activity. Air France operates approximately 80,000 bags per day, 25,000 of which are local departure, approximately the same volume for arrival and a little more for in connection. So to give an idea of that, the current issuance of RFID tags at CDG represents approximately 8 million pieces of luggage per year. So this is not an experimentation today, this is really deployed. About the context of the decision to go to RFID, 2 years ago, the digital revolution confronted us with the challenge of having to better inform our passenger about their luggage handling all along their entire journey. That is to say, to inform them more precisely and more frequently. And in this respect, Resolution 753 can be considered as a consequence and not a core motivation in itself. It goes really beyond. Moreover, at this time, we had estimated in detail the impact of the manual indexing, the time lost per bag, and the consequence upon the mishandling rate. Of course, the effort and the cost of installing new tracking points with standard technology was an issue for everyone, Air France and ADP as well. Another important aspect to understand is that our ULD were already equipped with a chip, so we already use the RFID technology to track containers at the entrance of all the galleries. This is working really well since 10 years, but to have an inheritance of the milestone from the containers to the bags, you need to have a good BRS coverage at inbound stations, which is a challenge today, and of course for bulk does not work. In addition to that, RFID technology for bag tags has already been tested in the past by Air France. It was in 2006 between CDG and Narita Airport, with more than 1 million bags tagged in this experimentation. The conclusion of this was that the technology was too expensive and that we should not go first. So needless to say that in those circumstances, the deployment of RFID within Delta in 2016 was a kind of timely signal to dig up this project. Due to our joint venture with Delta and our assisted flight in the US, we were already fed by RFID on-coded tags. So we were no longer the first, and our partner and ally had just made the first step. KLM was also interested, although their business case is different from our one. They want to sort the bag tags for quick connection under the wings, that is for medium haul, which are full bulk for them. And therefore, their priority is to deploy RFID in European airports. In this context, the decision to go was made internally at Air France. It remained to convince ADP who had to invest for us, so this famous partnership. So we proposed a kickoff to them with the secret objective to encourage them to help us to deploy this new technology. Surprisingly, at our first meeting, ADP took the floor and said that they want to launch RFID on Terminal 1 and that they also wanted to extend it to Terminal 2 with the commitment of Air France. So the funny story is that we came 2 years ago, both Air France and ADP, to ask each other the same thing at the same time without ever having discussed the topic before. So I let Nicolas to explain on his side this context.
Hi, a few numbers to define the CDG platform about baggage treatment. Our airport consists of 12 baggage sorters, and we handle 52 million departures passengers and 35 million departing baggage. As Rodolphe has already said, the digital context, as well as the implementation of IATA 753 resolution, and finally the obsolescence of our reading array have pushed us to look at new baggage identification technologies like RFID. The choice for this new technology was to allow some progress, increased performance on reading rates, reduction of maintenance costs, improved management during luggage crisis, multiplication of traceability points. This various point will be addressed again by Rodolphe in the next slide. Unfortunately, the choice could not be done without the help of some of our main partners, the airline. The biggest problem was the expectation of everyone to move forward on the subject. On one hand, the companies are waiting for us to deploy this technology on our infrastructures and thus equip themselves with RFID tags. And on the other end, we are waiting for the airline to equip themselves with RFID tags to equip us with RFID compatible infrastructure. a meeting to try to convince our main partner and for us to embark on the adventures, and here's a meeting where our expectation meets those of Air France, namely to launch the deployment on CDG platform.
Okay, so let's now take a look at the state of play of our RFID deployment this year, meaning the issuance of the RFID tags. This is the big part of the work. So the most important fact is that 100% of our all long-haul flights are covered today at CDG for local departure passenger. Due to work on the explosive detection system standard 3 within the infrastructure of ADP, we expect to be able to deploy the entire medium haul market by the end of next year. So we have also started the domestic market with Bordeaux, and we plan to deploy the rest of France by the end of next year. So also at international station, the American airport where we were assisted by Delta are also equipped. And we have some partnerships, some connections with Hong Kong and Narita Airport and Geneva in the close future. You mentioned also the dynamic with China that we also are observing. On a technical level, we were satisfied to start with a basic encoding, not associated, that is, without modification of the BSM. At the printer level, we only encode the Julian date and the backtag number. This is our choice. This allows for rapid deployment without any integration effort. But this is only for the beginning, of course. The objective is really to make this association in the DCS as soon as possible. The lack of association involves that you don't know really the nature of a tag, RFID or not, and that you can't improve easily your solution or to track default in your system. That's what we face. With RFID and hybrid arrays, the reading rates are well above 99%, and I would say close to 100%. It's of course not without difficulties of optimizations. And one important point is that the quality of the tags must be perfect, and the choice of the supplier is critical. You can't afford any lack of quality while decreasing the price. There is a real difficulty in following printers that no longer encode the RFID when they have lost the auto mode because of a maintenance error or an untimely shutdown. RFID at Air France is seen as the cornerstone of our arrival tracking system. We are extending the use of ULD tracking on unloading. It's a promising proof of concept. And we are now complementing it with RFID for tags, either on the bulk loader, this is on the test at KLM site in Amsterdam, or with RS soon being installed at CDG mid-2020 on the arrival beds. We are considering completing the overall solution by using the IoT, especially on our containers, to have a tracking at destination. But of course, the snowball effect in the airport of RFID implementing is also another solution. Another example of the RFID deployment at CDG is the full RFID retagging for the recovery stream. Here again, we optimize our resource for scanning in our repository. We multiply the number of tracking points there, and we explore mass tracking inside containers or for a quick search in a stock during crisis. So, Nicolas, your description of the infrastructure.
Just to look for deployment on RFID tech at CDG. At Terminal 1, the software is composed of 4 main parts. The array installed on this site are all hybrid array with dual technology, optical technology, and RFID technology. Hybridation is a recurring subject for us in order to satisfy all companies on the critical process of departures, which companies that have not yet switched to RFID tag, and to be able to mix everything to satisfy everyone. Another lever for the switch to RFID on this terminal is the switch from safety matching to standard 3. It's a leverage to have some research to implement RFID array. We can notice that we don't have yet any airline with deploy RFID tag in Terminal 1. At the moment, the ABCD terminals are not yet equipped. We have a project to completely overhaul the existing sorter at Terminal C planned for 2021-22, which will involve adequate reading array with RFID capabilities. The terminal for Air France has the most advanced in terms of compatibility with RFID. Terminal 2E is fully equipped on departures, including connection. Terminal 2E has the connection to make, and only Terminal 2G remains to be stored. All the array and departures are hybrid technology in order to anticipate the future somewhat if one day Air France decides to live and operate only on the future Terminal 4. The other advantage of using hybrid array is increasing the reading rates, allow us to disarm PIMS bodies and only handle discard tagless baggage. In the long term, we plan to equip all our installations with this technology for the start because we believe in it. Suppliers still have room for maneuver to improve reading rates and the various disadvantages of this technology, namely the excessive reading of luggage upstream or downstream as a conveyor. Concerning the arrivals, the observation is more difficult and delicate. We start from nothing with only a system allowing to identify the flight in the process of delivery. The choice was made only for array RFID antennas in order to ensure the traceability of the baggage when it's offloaded on the delivery bait. We are in the process of equipping Terminal 2E at the end of this year with only 4 carousels arriving. The rest will be done during the first half on 2020. As for the other terminals, they are considered in the coming years with also a priority for the deployment of the area where Air France operates. The choice made is due to, in particular, to a lower cost and a simpler antenna compared to the technology deployed at the departures. Here, there is no need to know if we have read the baggage before or after the scanning array. It's only a question of having an exhaustive view of the baggage passing through the carousel. In this part, we are closely linked to the deployment in the various upstream airports operated by Air France because without RFID tags, the antennas are useless. All deployment in the terminals on arrival may be carried out. When I talk about hybrid technology, it should be noted that a single hardware there are reading heads with camera, about 10, and to perform an optical reading on the barcode with no OCR reconnection capability, and 3 or 4 antennas to radio reading. The array thus has several sources that is transmitted to the computer to give the baggage tag number. The reading rates obtained on each technology are already very high with an order of 90% and more. By combining the two technology, optical and RFID, reading rate perform at 99%. Let's now turn to the technical problem we're encountering during the first deployment. It must be remembered that the biggest constraint for the array at the start is that it must be correctly identified to be spoofed to the right place. We have the multiple readings that have posed us the greatest difficulty. The workaround of this problem has been found by limiting the emission power of the antennas on specific gains and specific to each array localization. We don't want to reduce the speed of the conveyor or increase the spacing between two pieces of luggage to ensure that we could read without reversing the plug. We also had to review the exchange frame between the array and our information systems to prepare for the new information we could read on the chip maybe in the future with a flight number, still in discussion with Air France to have this information to improve disaster recovery. As we can see from this picture, the array we have installed the need of a tunnel to channel the radio waves necessary in order to have only one reading when the luggage passed through. To further refine this reading rate, our supplier had to make precise setting of the antenna transmission power in order to guarantee single reading. Since during the first stage the rates were good, but unfortunately, we had a high propensity for multiple reading, which annihilates the reading rates, which for us a systematic sending of this back to a manual indexing station. The final words for this technical presentation is that we really think we can improve the way we handle our luggage with this technology. And it's possible that we have not yet found all the possible cases have used for its implementation. I give the floor to Rodolphe for the different business case.
Okay. So to summarize the RFID business case as we see it, to compare cost and gains. First, you must buy compatible RFID printer or RFID modules at kiosk, at counters. And in our case, Air France is owning these printers, but this is more an exception. As usually, this is the airport's responsibility to invest for that. The airport must invest in new RFID compatible detectors arrays. But all this is a significant investment, but it's not a problem in itself, it's only investment. The recurring additional cost of RFID tags is the biggest problem of this business case and is endorsed by airline in general. Furthermore, there is an all or nothing effect because it's difficult to change roles of tag or to manage several roles at the same time, especially on shared counters or queued environment. This is the case we face in Bordeaux, for instance. The quick and observable gains are the reduction in the cost of manual re-indexing for unread tags. When you visit our sorter TDS3 today, you can notice that the desks are empty. So this is very striking. The cost of saving of maintenance for the airport is significant also because the RFID technology is very robust in a rather hostile environment with dust and with vibrations. As we have already mentioned, the loss of tracking results in a loss of time generating a very small part of mishandlings. But this is significant. If you consider the cost of missed bag, we have in mind that one piece of baggage retrieved this way is equivalent to more than the extra cost of 1,000 RFID tags. So don't forget also that for your connecting bags, you can prioritize the RFID deployment to focus it on your most valuable inbound station. There is a kind of Pareto rule here as usual. The possibility of increasing the number of tracking points at a lower cost is also a saving in investment. The perfect example is the installation at CDG of RFID arrays on the delivery belt at arrival. Sorting under the wing of the aircraft is another example for connecting bags. All this is already making the business case largely profitable, depending on the international deployment, of course, but mostly the local departure journey compensate the investment. But RFID open up new opportunity for gains. Reliability is a prerequisite to inform correctly our customer. For instance, we will be able to reduce baggage drop-off time thanks to RFID by avoiding them to scan their tag manually. It was a surprise when we create this business case to figure out that we can decrease the time to drop the bag. It's a really good one. Of course, it's not the only way, but it's a low-cost way and feasible way for ADP. Another opportunity, for example, is the dynamic association of the chip number and the license plate number. For example, for trackers, their reference can be dynamically associated at the time of baggage drop-off. No need for the passenger to make the effort to go to a site to make the pairing, just to insert the tracker in the bag. So we can also imagine to associate not uncoded tags in order to be able to track them by pure RFID means at a later stage. The uniqueness advantage of the RFID chip via its technical ID is obvious. Of course, all this means also some integration cost. The smart management of a TID, a unique reference, will have an integration, will have some impact on the future innovation cost at Air France and also at CDG. So this is in total the business case for as we see at Air France side, and it's really positive.
Hello, everybody. So following this presentation on RFID, I will present the last part of this webinar covering modern baggage messaging. I will present what has been done so far this year, what has been achieved, and what we foresee for the next year and the years after that. Sorry, one sec, I have an issue with the control. Okay. So this year has mainly been about building up on the work that has been done by the Baggage Information Exchange sub-working group. This group ran a pilot involving about 10 message brokers, and the idea was to capitalize on that work for others to be able to start implementing with the necessary guidance, the recommended practice 1755. First, the group did put together a one-pager for people to refer to when building their own business case. This document centralizes all the benefits that have been identified and allows people to draw from it the ones that applies to their own setup. Also, the process for digital certification had been handed over from the sub-working group to IATA Global Baggage Operations team. This allowed us to formalize the process and allows us to advertise it to the entire airline and airport industry. The sub-working group carried on its work of presenting the initiative to a broader audience with a face-to-face onboarding session. But this has been taken to the next level with the delivery of a dedicated modern baggage messaging webinar covering business benefits and high-level onboarding. This webinar can be watched on demand and allow viewers to have a good introduction before starting the work or joining more hands-on face-to-face sessions. And lastly, the sub-working group is finalizing the implementation guide before it is officially published on IATA.org. So the draft version is available on demand to whomever is ready to go ahead with implementation. This year, we also see the first airlines having full modern baggage messaging capability for live operations. So American Airlines can now exchange baggage messages in XML format with open communication protocol over public internet with any entity having the recommended practice capability. The benefits for operations at American Airlines are crystal clear. Better data quality allows data-driven decision-making, machine learning-based solutions to be trained, better data representation, and incomparable level of flexibility to accommodate new requirements from the business and operations. On the other side of the Atlantic, KLM and Air France are currently on the final stretch to implement sending and receiving capability in live data exchange with SkyTeam. It's going to be a huge step forward to get access to baggage information that is currently not accessible. It will also provide SkyTeam baggage data repository capability to get access to the highest quality of data to better serve customers. We also see airline and airport IT providers actively taking part in the industry discussion around implementation of the standard. Baggage handling system providers are looking at message schema in details too. And one airport IT provider has voiced his willingness to go ahead with a pilot. And finally, on the messaging side, CETA is already starting the work and has announced it will have complete modern baggage messaging capability by the end of the second quarter of 2020. So from now on, we actually foresee an accelerated adoption of modern baggage messaging from next year, with more airlines and airports directly exchanging baggage data as per the new standard. There are strong signs of wider adoption, with key airports and large airlines starting the work to move away from legacy messaging protocols. This is being driven by regional and individual engagements. By the end of the year, we will have touch base on modern baggage messaging with some primary actors of the industry in 4 regions of the world. So these are in the Middle East, in North America, in Europe, and in Southeast Asia. So what are we actually doing to support this broader adoption? So to support the work, we are actively working on the directory service, and the test phase is progressing as hosting solutions are being defined and worked on with IATA's IT services. This will allow a large variety of actors to discover each other and start exchanging baggage messages in an automated way. The digital certification is also ramping up, with the industry-wide identity management project being initiated in IATA. The requirement for baggage information exchange have been taken into account after review by the sub-working group, and the solution shall replace the current process when fully developed and endorsed by the industry. Now, I would like to introduce you to the roadmap of activities we have defined to take us from where we are today to the world where the relevant baggage data is available to all actors responsible to move a baggage along its course towards its intended destination. We broke down the work over the short term, the following 2 years, and we'll after that share our long-term view. The first stream of activity is on engagement and industry awareness. This is primarily conducted by the Baggage Information Exchange Sub-Working Group, with face-to-face onboarding sessions being held prior to working sessions, and these are happening twice a year. On the same frequency, there is a Baggage Working Group, which endorses the work produced by the Sub-Working Group. And in order to help airlines and airports investigate further modern baggage messaging and support the one who cannot join the sub-working group session on site, regional engagement will be held in all regions, and support will be provided to the one who get into pilot activities. The second stream of activities is implementation support. So over the course of 2020, I will be the point of contact for digital certification process, test node access, and ad hoc support question. The work is and will be conducted to automate these supporting functions in the medium term. The third stream of activity is about solution tuning. The first major release of the implementation guide is to be published next year, but in case need be, some smaller update might come while it is more broadly used. Depending on the need, we might produce some additional supporting materials such as architecture diagram, tutorials, and videos. And on the message schema front, IATA is currently planning 2 releases per year for all of IATA's API. And this applies to the XML schema for baggage too. We're expecting some changes next year, with the current change request being processed. But after that, we only foresee minor changes to the message in the medium term. The fourth and last stream of activity is the implementation monitoring. I'm planning to publish the first case study next year, and afterwards publish additional one to illustrate more use cases. And in order to provide a more visual representation of the adoption, we will publish a world map of organization having modern baggage messaging capability. This map will subsequently be updated twice a year to show the increased adoption. So over the long term, what do we foresee? Baggage messaging will naturally become the industry standard, removing the need for additional engagement and awareness sessions. All implementation support functions will be available as self-service so that all industry actors can have access to everything they need independently of IATA resources availability. On the solution front, the baggage schema is mature and only evolves to support new business needs that would be accommodated through the change request process. And finally, the adoption status is visible to all through the directory service usage. So I hope with this, you now have a clear picture of what we plan for next year and the years after that to take us to our final goal. So just to close off, I would like to remind you where you can find documents, or here's a summary of where you can find documents related to the standard and the supporting material. So in case anything you need is not there, just contact us at baggage@iata.org and we'll come back to you.
Thank you so much to Maureen, Gabriel, Rodolphe and Nicolas for your excellent presentations. It is now time for our Q&A session with today's speakers. You can still submit a question using the panel in the menu on the right. The first question we have here is for Maureen. Somebody has said, is anybody using RFID for sorting, or is it only for bag tracking?
Thank you, Tara. Yeah, very good question. So we generally recommend RFID as a tracking method to get more data wherever an airport or an airline needs more visibility in an area of their operations or their handling system. We've just seen with Air France and Charles de Gaulle at arrivals. Sorters are very well designed machines which generally do the job very well. And when we look at the numbers, we see that most mishandled bags are not missorted, but mishandled during the rest of the baggage processes. However, when you have a new baggage handling system being built, such as what's happening right now in China with all the new international airports opening, well, some of them compare the costs and benefits of all existing technologies and decide to install RFID infrastructure for sorting because it is more cost efficient, which of course implies that the tag issues at their airport are RFID enabled, but also include a barcode so that they can be read in all subsequent airports the bag is going to pass by. And it also implies that they have a solution for incoming and transfer bags. But other airports like Hong Kong with existing baggage infrastructure have started to look at RFID for tracking and then included other functionalities like sortation and reconciliation indeed.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you, Maureen. The next question we have here is for Rodolphe. Somebody has asked among all the values delivered by RFID, what is the most important one to compensate for the increased tag cost?
Definitely, the most efficient lever is the cost saving regarding resource for manual indexing, because it has a short-term effect and mitigates the risk. And by chance, we share this activity with ADP, that is said to operate sorters, and we revealed this activity to ADP. So one of the key of success was that we agreed to share this post of cost savings.
Amazing, thank you very much. Nicolas, this one is for you. What technology is needed from airports to integrate RFID in their luggage systems?
There are no specific needs to deploy a RFID. It's a sensor on the array like camera or laser beam. So there are mod adjustments to configure well the RFID power for the antenna, just to read one back at a time for the sortation. But for tracking issue, it's already a good choice to take RFID, but we have no need to specific installation.
Brilliant, thank you. Gabriel, someone has asked you, is there any target date for industry-wide adoption of modern baggage messaging?
Hi. So, well, actually, this is being worked upon. The airline members of the baggage working group are currently investigating each one in their respective organization what would be the lead time for implementation. And upon individual review, they should come up with a target for an industry-wide adoption. But things are not standing still in the meantime. So as we've seen today, there are quite a few actors which are already live, and representatives of each area of the industry are actually working on the implementation. So things are moving even before we have a target date defined, but this will come too.
Amazing, thank you. Maureen, back to you. Can bag manufacturers add a permanent RFID tag?
Yeah, absolutely. And some baggage manufacturers have become strategic partners of IATA precisely because they wanted to be more involved in our baggage and RFID activities. So what some luggage manufacturers have been developing is integrating an electronic baggage tag, an EBT, built into the suitcase. And an EBT can indeed be a smooth transition towards RFID because it combines both barcode and RFID technologies into one device. But beyond baggage manufacturers, some of our member airlines have actually introduced permanent or reusable RFID tags that are attached to the luggage, such as Qantas with their Q bag tag, for example. And these are all very good initiatives, which actually pave the way for an alternative to the current paper bag tags, which, as we know, are very hard to recycle.
Oh, great, thank you. Rodolphe, there's another question here for you. Somebody has said, why do you not write more data into the chip instead of only the LPN and the Julian date?
In fact, we didn't want to encode, for instance, the flight number or other information because these updates involves problem and additional cost. We prioritize the consistency, and we only want one single version of the truth, that is to say, the flight number written on the last PSM. This was maybe the only point of divergence with ADP, because for reason of sorting in the event of a crisis, would have liked this additional information to facilitate the recovery. We also have the delivery to door in the future that would be keen of having extra information. But for the starting point, we prefer to be consistent.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Nicolas, someone has asked you, are all of your check-in counters owned by the airport?
No, unfortunately, the checking in Terminal 2E, 2F, and 2G are specific to Air France and their partners. So we only exploit Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 ABCD.
Interesting, thank you so much. Gabriel, another question for you. Somebody has said, if I want to start implementing modern baggage messaging, how do I do so?
So, well, what we've done or is going to be ready in the next few days is that we will have summarized all the first step an entity should take on the modern baggage messaging page on IATA.org. So there will be two main sections that needs to be looked at. There is, so for for a start, the business case section where we give access to the one-pager with all the benefits that have been identified and some additional question that needs to be answered to dig more in the details, and also the industry business case from IATA. So that's for getting started with the business case. And if someone is ready with the business case or want to look a bit at the technical details, there is step-by-step. There are a few steps to be followed to start implementation, and this will be there too, with a link to our previous webinar that gives an overview, a link for the implementation guide, and some further items. So everything should be there in IATA.org, and definitely join a face-to-face onboarding session at the next baggage information exchange sub-working group, and contact me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Somebody has said here, RFID is not new, yet adoption is slow. Will it ever become a widely adopted technology in the air transport industry? Maureen, would you like to answer that one?
Sure. So RFID is not new. Indeed, it's been widely used for many years now in other sectors such as logistics, retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and even in our industry, to keep track of aircraft parts or to capture the inventory of the equipment on board the aircraft, for example. So for baggage operations specifically, IATA has been working on this topic for several years, and that's precisely why we are in a strong position for RFID adoption now, because we have more than 15 years of experience with pioneer airports such as Hong Kong that I mentioned earlier, or Las Vegas. We have strong case studies. We have developed and refined the standard I was mentioning during my presentation over the years. And at the same time, as Rodolphe from Air France mentioned, the price of RFID inlays has come down considerably over the last couple of years as it becomes more widely adopted, and this trend is expected to continue. So what was missing, I believe, was a strong signal from our industry stakeholders, which they've addressed by unanimously voting in favor of RFID baggage tag. And that commitment to an RFID future is what is going to make the difference now, I think.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. For our final question, Rodolphe, I'm going to ask you, in your installation, who bears the cost of purchasing the RFID bag tags?
Clearly, Air France bears, and it was, in fact, a strategic choice, a kind of enterprise choice decision. It was taken at the highest level of Air France by our general manager after a long study and presentation between operation, project team, and customer experience. So it was not so natural. It took months to decide that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. Any unanswered questions will be taken into consideration as IATA progress the baggage, XML, and RFID activities. Thank you so much to Maureen, Gabriel, and Rodolphe, and Nicolas for their time today. As you leave the webinar, a survey will appear on your screen, asking you to rate the webinar. Please could you take a moment to provide your feedback. If now is not a good time, the survey will be sent to you shortly via an email, and if you could complete it when you can, we would greatly appreciate it. On behalf of International Airport Review and IATA, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar. We hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.